A winter stockpile is a pasture that's been reserved for winter use. From what I understood, all I had to do was keep the sheep out from about July and let the grass grow. And then in the winter, this would be the perfect place for the sheep to graze when there wasn't very much grass to eat. And when I first turned the sheep into this area, they loved it. They came in, they started eating right away. And then about 15 minutes later, they left. They would come by and visit the area once a day like any other place, but they saw no real additional benefit in coming into the winter stockpile area. So when the snow lifted, I started looking at the grass, and the grass was all dead. It had no real nutritional value to it. The only thing the sheep wanted was the green stuff growing underneath this grass. So actually this grass was blocking all the green stuff, all the green grass they wanted to eat. Even now, here at the end of March, they're still not touching this stuff. They're eating the green grass, but not this winter stockpile. And you can see now on March 24th how the green grass is really starting to take off, but it's being blocked by this winter stockpile grass. And here's an area where there's plenty of tall grass. It's in a collapsed geodesic dome I built, and I couldn't mow it at all. And the sheep don't care about it at all. They're not going in there trying to eat that stuff. They totally ignore it. Now, if I did rotational grazing, I might make them eat it and lock them up in there until they had to eat it. But, they just want to get out of here. They don't want to be down here. Hey, sheep, where are you going? You got to help me. I got all this winter stockpile. I can't use it. I guess I'll just have to mow it. So where are the sheep headed? They're headed out to where I do continuous grazing. Now, you can see how thick the grass is out here. Much thicker than it was where the winter stockpile was. And I let my sheep do continuous grazing year-round, and I have more grass than I know what to do with. And that's also based on agricultural research, that there's several studies that show that continuous grazing actually produces more, or at least as much, as rotational grazing. Now, I know everybody on YouTube thinks differently because of some of these YouTube people, but modern agricultural science knows more than people on YouTube. So to find the correct answer on winter stockpiling, I went to ChatGPT, and notice what it says at the bottom. ChatGPT can make mistakes. ChatGPT is artificial intelligence that looks at the entire internet as its data source. So just like there's bad data on the internet, you can qualify ChatGPT to find just the good data that would help you. So I asked ChatGPT to describe any peer-reviewed studies about using uncut grass as a winter stockpile for animals to eat in the winter. And notice that I asked for peer-reviewed studies, which means it has to come from an agricultural university made by scientists that has been reviewed by other scientists, and not from some YouTube personality that's never even had an agricultural degree in agricultural science. And that's why I believe my winter stockpile failed, because I listened to a YouTuber instead of trying to do research with modern agricultural scientists. The first study came from the University of Kentucky, and it talked about how you need to trim back to about 3 or 4 inches of the summer growth, and then apply nitrogen to it to make this work. To read this study, you click on this button at the end of the paragraph, which takes you to the study. And the first thing in the study you notice is that it's for cattle and not necessarily sheep. And from the studies I looked at, it looked like winter stockpiling more applied to cattle than it did to sheep. I didn't see a lot for sheep. The second point the study made is that I needed to have either tall fescue or Kentucky bluegrass for good results. I also needed to apply fertilizer or chemical fertilizer, and since I do everything organically, that's not going to work for me. So that told me quite a bit of what I'd done wrong, is that I had the wrong type of grass and I didn't boost it up with chemical fertilizer. But I did have the timing right. I did have the grass about the right height. Going back to ChatGPT, the next study was the University of Massachusetts, And you can read this overview here, but down at the bottom, they've got another button you can click to actually go look at the study. And the study has a lot of good information. One of the points it makes is that the digestibility of stockpile grasses will decline over winter, so it's best suited to either just maintain sheep, dry cows, or cattle, but not high-producing animals. So winter stockpiling is really not suitable for lactating animals. And as far as sheep, it's good for maintaining sheep, but not necessarily carrying them through the entire winter. And while winter stockpiling may be something new, people have been rolling up hay and putting hay in bales or hay piles or hay stacks, or putting their hay in the barn. They've been doing that for centuries. And there's a really good reason why mankind's been putting hay up out of the weather, is because it oxidizes. If it's on the ground, it oxidizes and it loses its nutrition. And so having hay someplace where it's inside of a bale where the weather can't get to it, that's a much superior way of feeding your animals than just to leave it out on the ground. And I can't understand how anyone would have a pasture full of tall fescue or Kentucky 31 and fertilize it and then not cut it for hay. Why wouldn't you want to cut it for hay and save it? Because you know you're going to get more production out of that. You know, you leave your hay out in some sort of winter stockpile and you never bale it. Well, how are these animals supposed to get to it when it's covered in snow? I mean, it's hard enough as it is. The only excuse I could ever see is that your barn is so full of hay you have no place to put any more baled up hay. But even then, you can still put like a hay bale on the ground and let the animals get to it out there. It really doesn't go to waste. Even hay that is not used doesn't go to waste. Because I always put my hay bales to feed my animals in the place where I'm going to do my gardening. So it's full of sheep poop, it's full of hay. And I do this thing called the Ruth Stout method of gardening, where I use hay and mulch to raise all my crops. And so the hay never really goes to waste. It's actually a good thing. I do no-till organic farming, no-till gardening. And so with this method, I'm actually preparing the soil by adding more humus to it. And so everything works out. I get to use all the hay. The only thing I can't use is this ridiculous winter stockpile concept that made me a bunch of, unusable, undigestible matter that's covering up all the green stuff my sheep will be eating. And I'm stuck with it. I gotta mow this stuff down. And to be fair to these scientific studies, they never tell you to do it. They just tell you that if you're going to do it, this is how you do it. That's a little bit different. They never tell you this is better than putting up hay for the winter. No, I got into this situation with winter stockpiling with stuff I can't use from listening to somebody on YouTube that never even went to an agricultural school and just told me what he thought or she thought about something. And I copied them. I should have investigated this with backed up scientific studies, and I'll never make that mistake again. I'd like to encourage all of us to verify what some of these people are saying on YouTube, to verify that with a scientific study from a legitimate agricultural university, because there's just too much bad information going around. They're trying to encourage people to do certain things. I know they're all good old boys, but we have a saying in Tennessee that good old boys can get you killed. Here's an example. Tennessee is full of something called Johnson grass. And Johnson grass is really hard to get rid of because it has these rhizomes or a root system that grows underground, and it comes up everywhere. But the worst part about Johnson grass is that when the first frost comes by and gets cold, the leaves will start putting out hydrogen cyanide in quantities that can actually kill animals. So if you have a winter stockpile full of Johnson grass, you may have some real problems. The only way for me to ever get rid of Johnson grass is to use herbicides, and I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to use herbicides. I know that's what everybody else does, but not me. I just keep the Johnson grass cut short so the sheep won't have a problem with it in the winter, and that's how I deal with it. Well, thanks for watching the video.